Recently, James Gunn and some Superman cast members announced on social media that the next film will premiere July 9, 2027. It's titled The Man of Tomorrow, but there's more to announce than just the title and date. If you look at all the images they shared, we see Lex Luthor with the legendary green battle suit. One that we've seen adapted in animations and video games, but never in movies, something that will surely change with the upcoming film. And yes, everyone is very happy until you find out what is the original story behind the battle suit. It's one of the most compelling and emotional Lex Luthor stories. Portrayed over 20 years of comics, it humanized the Man of Steel's greatest enemy for the first time. I'll share the story behind this suit. No tears, alright? Welcome to Geek Beats, your quick dose of geek culture. Today we'll talk about the tragic story behind Lex Luthor's battlesuit. The tragic story of Lex's battlesuit begins 20 years before it actually appeared in the comics. As with many Superman stories, it begins with Lex Luthor. Escaping from prison, Lex Luthor, the great criminal genius, breaks out of jail and publicly challenges Superman to a final fight to decide who is best. However, he specifically requests their fight be, for the first time, on equal terms. That is, without any powers that would give Superman an unfair advantage. Although Lex Luthor is a fugitive, Superman agrees, fearing people will lose trust in him if he doesn't. And he does everything he can to ensure a fair fight. He travels with Lex to a red sun planet and gives him special shoes to help Lex adapt to the planet's gravity. I'm not sure if Superman is being a gentleman or just clueless, but that's the sort of thing that happened in comics back then. The fight begins, and at first Lex seems to be winning. Since Superman is used to being invulnerable and holding back his own strength, Luthor has the advantage in this situation. However, Superman soon comes to his senses and knocks Luthor out with a precise blow. Superman is still a true gentleman, so worried about Luthor, he goes to the ship to get some water. When he returns, he realizes Luthor has escaped. As he searches, both are caught in a strong sandstorm. When the storm passes, Lex discovers that the planet is inhabited, and he sees a group of people manually filling containers with water from a source, even though there was a working water pump nearby. Lex realizes these people belong to an advanced civilization, but something like a war caused its downfall. They forgot how to use their technology and reverted to the Stone Age. Lex helps them, thinking he might need their gratitude later. In a few hours, Lex teaches them to use their existing technology, and soon the inhabitants see him as a hero from the sky. However, Lex realized there was a big problem in this world. The truth was, this spring was the planet's only water source and wouldn't last much longer. This civilization was doomed. Lex was about to tell them when the planet's inhabitants found Superman. Lex decided their rivalry mattered more and started preparing to resume the fight. Soon the two rivals would face each other again, and this time it seemed that Luthor would be the victor. However, something odd occurred. Luthor's strength seemed to fade. Superman took advantage of this and Lex surrendered, saying, "I admit defeat, Superman. Will I return to prison on Earth with you?" Back, Lex informs Superman about the planet's water issues. He suggests taking ice from a nearby planet and throwing it to them. The Man of Steel uses his strength and saves the planet. The comic ends with Superman showing him a photo he took using his telescope, in which you can see that the locals of this planet received the water and erected a statue to the hero who saved them, none other than Lex Luthor. This would be the first appearance of the planet, which would later be known as Lexor in honor of the hero who saved it, Lex Luthor. A planet where Lex was considered a hero and Superman a villain, which reverses the dynamic that these two characters usually have in the comics. This wouldn't be the last time we saw the planet Lexor, since for several years after this story, we saw how Lex escaped to this planet, over and over again. Each time Superman had to go to Lexor, a planet where he lost his powers and was seen as a villain, to catch him. In one of the most famous stories related to the planet Lexor, for example, Lex Luthor fakes his own death. Superman is tried for the crime until he ultimately clears his name. At one point in the story, Lex even fell in love with a Lexorian woman named Ardora. However, he was never able to stay on this planet for too long. Not because Superman was going to look for him, but because of his desire to end the life of the Man of Steel. It was always stronger than the love he had for Ardora or even Lexor. He kept returning to Earth until one day something changed. Alright, let's get back to the topic. The tragic story of Lex Luthor's battlesuit begins in Action Comics number 544 from 1983. A comic that starts with Lex defeated again by Superman after another failed world domination attempt. However, this time the battle had left him severely injured and with internal fractures. Fortunately for Lex, Superman saw a natural disaster that required his attention, so he had to go to the rescue. The Man of Steel thought Lex was too injured to leave, but never underestimate Lex Luthor. With his last strength, he called a robot to rescue him and take him to Lexor, where Lex was seen as the greatest hero ever, for saving them from drought and ushering in an era of technology and progress. A few days later, Lex wakes up and realizes someone healed him. It's his wife, Ardora, that beautiful young woman from Lexor, whom he saw only occasionally. But now she brings great news. She had a child with Lex while he was on Earth. Lex Luthor appears genuinely happy for the first time in years. So he decides to leave behind his life on Earth and his criminal past to focus on being a family man and an exemplary leader for Lexor. He even goes so far as to develop a device that would stabilize the planet from all those tremors that plagued it. And for a while, life was good for Lex Luthor. However, little by little, Lex started thinking about Superman again. He started to hate that his rival was still alive, even on the other side of the galaxy. He also knew the Man of Steel would eventually cross space to Lexor to catch Luthor and bring him to justice. Lex starts experimenting with Lexor's ancient lost technology, aiming to create something to challenge the Man of Steel. He ultimately succeeds, and that's when his iconic green battlesuit first appears. He begins to test it in secret against the very inhabitants of Lexor, who simply call him the Marauder. At one point, Ardora suspects Lex and asks if he's involved with the Marauder. But he looks her in the eyes and lies to her directly, saying he knows nothing about it. Superman eventually arrives on Lexor to catch Lex Luthor, but the Lexorians attack the Man of Steel, giving Lex time to escape. He goes for his new suit and faces his arch-rival once and for all. By doing so, the Lexorians discovered their hero Lex Luthor was also the Marauder attacking them. The battle was fierce, and Lex fought with unmatched fury. In Superman's words, "Seeing me after so long has given Luthor a kind of jolt of pure hatred. He has exposed his true nature in front of the Lexorians, whose admiration he worked so hard to win." However, in the heat of battle, Lex accidentally attacks the mechanism that was keeping Lexor stable and safe from earthquakes. His expression suddenly changes for the first time ever. Fear and worry weigh more on Lex than his own hatred towards Superman. "No, what have I done? Ardora." Lex Jr. In a matter of seconds, Lex's attack caused a chain reaction on Lexor, destroying the planet almost instantly, with neither Lex nor Superman able to do anything about it. Ultimately, even Lex Luthor's ingenuity couldn't save his world or family. Superman survived only because of his invulnerability, so he thought that Lex had died. He left the planet, thinking how Lexor's destruction reminded him of Krypton's. Superman always suspected Luthor would one day fall to his own evil, but never imagined an entire civilization would pay so dearly. However, at the end of the comic, we can see Luthor emerging from the rubble as he delivers one of his best lines ever. "You took my family from me. You took my world from me. Until now, I always thought I hated you as much as one person could hate another. But I was wrong. Until today, I didn't know the true meaning of the word. I'm coming for you, Superman, and I'm just starting to hate." This is one of my favorite Lex Luthor stories, though it's not widely known. Mainly because despite introducing the iconic battlesuit, this continuity was retconned just 2 years after the comic was published, since Detective Comics rebooted its entire universe with Crisis on Infinite Earths. So it's understandable that few people know this story, but now you already know it. If you like Superman content, remember to subscribe because it's one of the topics I talk about the most. If you need to buy something, use our Mercado Libre affiliate link. That's all for today. I'm Gio, the Geek Monitor. And keep seeing beyond the obvious